Welcome to Jump Shots from the Goal Line. I am your host, Jonathan Dugan, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, John Henningsen. John, I have no special announcements this week. I'm not going to blow your mind with nothing that we haven't discussed. So you're safe. No new pregnancy rumors or anything like that. Besides that, I know you hit the course, I think, yesterday morning, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, in case you guys aren't getting the theme, like if we have time off, there's a chance I'm out there. But yeah, I was absolutely out there. Ran into a buddy of yours, so a mutual friend, if you will.
Yep.
Out there golfing, and a little disappointing that there's no surprises this week. Although that certainly was fun last week.
Yeah.
At least you guys got to hear a real genuine reaction. That's for sure. I didn't even listen back to it myself, but I know for sure I was like, "This is really."
Yeah, it was. We threw it on the TikTok so that we got a lot of feminine love on there. The ladies liked the pregnancy announcement. Your shock was great. I will save that forever. And like you guys, like John was just saying, you sense a theme here, right? If we have time off, we're both swinging a club. One of us is doing it in the real world, and one of us is doing it on 2K. But we're both, we got the white ball on our mind. Dude Lebowski, like I was telling John before the show, is just ripping apart the PGA. He's currently just destroying Justin Rose. So I'm just fully entrenched in my alternative golf lifestyle, and Henny's fully invested in his current golf lifestyle. So this is slowly but surely becoming a golf pod. You know, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is centered around golf nowadays, and you can even go get some sweet merch on shankitgolf.com. Use code JumpShotsPod and you can get 10% off. So, follow our lead and start golfing. That's what I would like to say. Wouldn't you, Henny?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, we're getting older, Dugan. I mean, we're already a year older than when the podcast started. The crawl to golf was inevitable. It's
Yes.
maybe happening a little faster than we thought. Um, but this was inevitable. The world saw it coming. We were the last ones to know, frankly. Um, but I got to ask you too, because obviously you chose the name Dude Lebowski, and I think it's pretty obvious where it came from. But I don't know
Yeah.
that we've ever had this specific discussion. That like a top five movie for you?
Oh, I mean, I feel like any guy should love that movie. I mean, it's one of the best, just like kind of, you can put that on at any point. If you have a little bit of free time and you need something to do, you throw on
Yeah,
that movie and you're just good to go.
it is like a truly, and like there's a podcast out there, so shout out to the rewatchables. But it is like truly a movie that is like rewatchable. Like you can pick it up at any point. It doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
and it's like always good. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, the bowling scene. You're like, yeah, kind of. I'm kind of in for a bit,
Yeah.
or like, are we gonna get a little terror? Like, whatever it is, like, you can jump into all these different pieces of that movie and be just fine. Those like scenes seem to stand alone. Each individual's like has its own little moment.
Very memeable movie too.
Yeah, it's like quotable, memeable, like yeah, just capturable in terms of the imagery. The movie's awesome. To me, it's like a top five movie of all time.
Yeah. Shout out to my boy Tyler. When he was staying with me, I left to go pick up my stepson, and I came back and he had changed my entire 2K character to Dude Lebowski, and I just abided, as
Yeah,
dudes will.
that's what the dude does. That's absolutely what he does.
And I like it was the perfect person to put on a 2K video, like a golf video game. Like I can only imagine like the dude golfing, and like that's who I want to golf with. Let me tell you that. If he's as fun on the course as he is on the lanes, it's going to be a good time.
Just drinking White Russians.
God, can you imagine drinking a White Russian on the course like
No, I was like
in the
talking.
summer?
No, I was like talking about this with friends the other day. Just like because basically I used to work at a place at some point, like one of the signature drinks was like this coffee drink with like a berry liqueur, and I'm like, who the hell is ordering these things? It's like
A
dairy and blah
coffee
blah.
drink with
Yeah,
berry
like
liqueur?
yeah, like Chambord
Gross.
in it, and like yeah, there's like there's always a dairy. I'm like, who's ordering these drinks? Like
The dude.
you have one, yeah, I get like one every now and then, like sort of your seasonal holiday dessert drink, if you will, but
Yeah.
it always will blow my mind. Yeah, the idea of having several of these things is like absurd.
You're gonna
You're
be
just
rushing
crushing
to the
milk and booze
bathroom.
all night. Yeah, like that's just such a good idea. And this is like
Yeah.
pre almond, like we're not even juicing nuts at this point. So this is straight
Yeah.
milk.
This
This
is
is
just straight
real
dairy,
dairy.
baby.
Yeah, no oats involved.
No, there were no milking of the oats at this point. I think your like Dude Lebowski drink is definitely like a porter. Like you definitely get that itch at least once a year where you
Yeah,
just pound porters.
wintery season. Give me a little porter, a little stout for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But White Russians, God, man, I don't think I know anybody our age that drinks White Russians. But
I have
maybe,
not seen anyone order a White Russian like maybe in my life, but I mean, I just the fact that they do exist. There's no
maybe we
doubt.
need to. Maybe like if
Yeah,
you
maybe
and
we're
I,
missing out, man. Maybe we're doing
yeah,
this all wrong. Maybe us dudes, need to abide, as you say. So I don't know. Maybe we're doing it all wrong.
maybe next time we hit the course before our round or after, and we've been sitting in the AC for at least 30 minutes, we'll order a White Russian just for his sake. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm just so tempted to like quote everything, and I'm just gonna fight the urge. You guys know what they are, so I won't do this to you and just make us sit here and listen to movie quotes. But as soon as I get going on that movie, I want to go through them all.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched it, go out and watch it. Tomorrow's Memorial Day. I think most of us are off. It's a great movie to just slap on and chill and laugh your ass off. So go out there and watch it. I highly, highly recommend it. Great shout though, Henny, as always. So something that we missed on the last episode that you actually brought up to me pretty much as soon as we stopped recording was that Carmelo Anthony retired from the game of basketball. Um, Played what, I think 19 years in the league. They always say that, right? Like they're like, oh, 19-year vet. I don't recall Carmelo Anthony really playing the last year or even two, but I'll give him his due. I'll give him 19. That's fine. Very, very influential player.
Yeah.
Um, at his peak, and I think his peak was probably what, like 2012, something like that, when he was just killing it for the Knicks. He had some really good years with the Nuggets previously, getting them to the playoffs. Kind of like the Jokic before Jokic, different games, but just like being the face of a franchise in that manner. Um, some really good years with Team USA. If you haven't watched that Team USA documentary, he has some really, really funny parts on there about like they'd go out partying until what, like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then they would see Kobe like working out. And they all started kind of following Kobe's suit and working out. And Melo was like the one guy that was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's like
And
no. He's like no.
yeah, funny enough, he was the one that kind of met his end the quickest, but still super super great player. I remember his battles when he was at Oak Hill playing LeBron James at St. Vincent St. Mary's. That was kind of where his first his brand was made with those battles. And then he goes and wins a title with Boeheim at Syracuse, and then I think he got drafted what, dude, like third or fourth, right? Because it went LeBron, Darko, and then it was either Dwayne Wade or him. I can't remember who
I
went
think
third and
Melo
fourth.
3,
And
Wade
then
4.
okay,
I could be wrong. I could
and
be
then Chris
wrong.
Bosh I think was like five, right? Like that was a long
Yes.
time
No,
ago.
it's absolutely crazy. Yeah, he was a third overall pick in 2003.
Okay, yeah, but still incredible player. Had a really nice little rivalry with LeBron, even though they were banana boat brothers with Chris Paul. He was a
Correct.
dude. He was a fun player, probably one of the best just isolation scorers of the last like 15 years, especially when he was on the Knicks, dude. Like if they needed a bucket, Melo was going to go get a freaking bucket. I loved watching his game, especially there was like a brief period of time, like 5 years, where like because up until like the last 2 years, I was like hooping like all the time. And Henny, you remember that because I would invite you all the time until you
Yep.
like basically broke your finger playing with me. But I would try to
Right.
like bring the ball up and like kind of ISO, and like I think I took a lot from his game because he would just have those little kind of dribble up like, isolation, and then he would just pop it right over the guy's face, like right there in the mid range. Like he was a fun player, and it's crazy to see that he's retired now.
Yeah, it's been he's I mean, just like LeBron for me, right? He's basically the same age as me. So
Yep.
those guys are really like my contemporaries.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it hits like somehow different. Like I mean, he's definitely someone who I've seen his whole career, right? Like
Yep.
watched him, like as you mentioned, like we were aware of him as a high school player. I
Yep.
think I mean, I'm probably missing somebody, but he's the first like really successful one and done I can think of. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the first people that comes to mind. There are plenty to follow, but to win a championship in 1 year was such a cool thing for him to just go get that accomplished and just dominate and then go get drafted. I mean, he probably would have been a number one pick the 5 years following. It was a little,
Yeah.
the Darko pick obviously is insanity, but I mean, or, hindsight being what it is, but yeah, I think he was just superly culturally impactful. He was
Absolutely.
just one of those, as you mentioned. I mean, just a great scorer. He averaged 28 points a game, like in three different runs. He was always incredible on the U.S. team. Like I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that was absolutely the best version of him. I'm like, if this dude can just be a scorer and doesn't actually have to facilitate, because like that's the thing, he was sort of a selfish player. I think he
Yep.
kind of embodied a style that was that, and
Very
never,
early
no one,
2000s. Yep.
yeah, no one ever really put the right pieces around him. I think Melo was inspired by the same NBA that I was watching though previously, right? Like I know I've said it at least to you, like whether we were joking or whatever, that if you could give me like 90s to early 2000s Clippers, like put me on a bad team and let me take every shot, I can't imagine a funner way to like be in the NBA. And I think
Yeah.
Melo was like, this is going to be sick. Like Melo was happy to be Melo. Like he took
Yeah.
his shots, like got paid, was happy with Lala, did the whole, like, he kind of did all of the stuff that it's like he checked every single box. And like, I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know that maybe at the end he wanted to win or maybe he did want to win, but I don't know. It's like he won that championship in college, and he's like, "Yeah, like I'm good, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get shots up. Like get me through the season, whatever." But it was in a cool way. So he's definitely someone like I'll just never really forget, and he probably gets lost in history a little bit, but he could ball.
Yeah, he single-handedly kind of carried a couple teams to some like nice little playoff runs, right? Like the Nuggets, like I mentioned.
Yeah,
I don't know if they ever got past the second round, but like it was always going to be a battle. Like he was always going to put up a huge amount of points and stuff like that. And then going to the Knicks, Melo's actually originally from Baltimore. Big Ravens fan, by the way, if you didn't know. And then I think part of his childhood was in New York City, so him going back and playing for the Knicks was a little bit of a homecoming. And then he single handedly carried those teams too. Like those playoff runs were absolutely insane. And it always came down to him getting beat by like LeBron's Cavs or LeBron's Miami Heat teams. He was pretty much like superhuman. Like it was insane. And you're right, he never really got the support that he that like a LeBron got or like a Dwayne Wade got. It was always just kind of him. But he made the best of it, and I really do kind of agree with you that I never got the sense that he was like super driven to win a championship, but he always made it happen to where his teams were in the playoffs. And those USA teams, he single handedly carried some of those games. And then obviously a few years back when the hoodie Mellow thing came out, where he would go to open gyms. What was that dude during like either a lockout or during COVID? He would come
yeah.
up.
I think it was a
He
lockout first, but yeah,
he would come up into the gym with just the hoodie on and just absolutely eviscerate like NBA All-Star guys and just like look incredible. So like open gym champ, like what everybody that has ever played in LA Fitness imagines themselves being, that's who Melo was. Just absolutely incredible at scoring, and that's it. Never a defensive guy, never a facilitator. He just went out there and got buckets. And some of my favorite memories with him were like with him and J.R. Smith on the Knicks, him and Kenyon Martin on the Nuggets, like just these dudes that I don't know, kind of like what you're mentioning, embodied just pure 2000s basketball. And like, I'm with you, dude. Like, when I go back and think about my favorite memories of watching basketball, those were it for sure.
Yeah, he was sick, dude. I really enjoyed Nuggets Melo for sure. Knicks Melo, I think I was off a little bit. Still enjoyed
Hmm.
it, but hard to just root for, like maybe a little harder to root for the Knicks. That was like a Nuggets team that felt a little under the radar, and they did have like
Yeah.
Kmart and J.R. Smith and Melo, so it was like
Yes.
a very watchable squad. Like,
Hmm.
um, but
Had
yeah, man,
AI at
yeah,
one point too. Remember, he
yeah,
had
and
AI on
yeah,
his
and
team.
I was there, and it was basically like,
They both
I
had
mean, that was we.
cornrows.
Yeah, we always
Yeah.
say this, like, oh, it's these teams where they take turns playing, like booking. Those teams were taking turns. Like that was like when it was
In the
AI
worst
and
way
Melo,
too.
like that was literally like, yeah, that was legit. Like either the ball is going to Melo or it's going to AI on this one, and you guys have 24 seconds to figure it out. Yeah,
And those are the teams that would either get beat by 20 or beat you by 20. There was no
yeah.
in between. And that's
There's
why
some
they
good
always won like
days.
that's why they
Yeah,
always won like 41, 42 games, but they were always like they're always a threat for sure, but
yeah,
just not enough of a threat to get it done in the playoffs. So
yes, for
um
sure.
great career, Mello. I have fond memories of you. Godspeed, sir. I'm sure that your sons or whatever will be in the NBA here soon because that's just the trend. All these dudes that I grew up watching, all their kids are freaking seniors in high school or entering college like LeBron's kids. So getting old is weird, man. Getting old is really weird. But I can tell you this much: there is a certain team that plays in South Beach that could really use prime Mello right now, and that's the Miami Heat. God, going up 3-0 and they are on the freaking ropes, are they not, John?
I think they're done. I can't imagine how you would have given up this lead, and now it's going to be Game 7 and whatever it is, TD. But basically the
Yeah,
Boston Garden, whatever you want to call it. Um,
it'll always be the Boston Garden. I don't care
yeah,
what
that's what I
else they
mean. I think
call
it's
it.
like TD, but uh, now it's Game 7, and that place is going to be crazy. And there's just, I mean, sure Jimmy's built for it, but the weird part is this is the first time the NBA playoffs have started to make sense to me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, I've known, we've talked about it several times. Like Boston is definitely better. This Heat team doesn't make sense to me. There's no freaking way. This just doesn't make sense. And then like you start looking at the Pirates and you're like starting to shine them up and you're like, I guess Bam's like better than you know what I mean? All these guys are a little better than you think. Like maybe that Duncan Robinson contract is a good contract.
Oh
All this
gosh.
stuff you start like talking yourself into and your brain starts to melt. And sure enough, Boston starts battling back and that game was crazy. I mean, they were done. The
Yeah.
Heat had them.
The
It
Heat
was
were
done.
celebrating, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
was done. Yeah, and there's plenty of videos of like Heat fans that are going to have regret for the rest of their lives of their celebrations of that. Um, yeah, I just can't imagine emotionally how the Heat are going to be ready for 7 now.
see, that's why I think it already is over too, bro. Like there's never a redemption in sports for shit like that where you literally have all these videos circulating of like Miami Heat bars and stuff, which I didn't even know were a thing. I didn't know that the Miami Heat that had that kind of following. I thought people in Miami were too busy going clubbing and being on the beach, but I thought it was a lot like San Diego, but
Yeah, everybody likes
um
a winner.
subtle shot there on you. But yeah, like all these videos coming out where they're like dropping confetti and shit in bars because they think that they just won. And good old Derek White, Greg Popovich's own, tips in the game winner. And I think right there, they absolutely stole the soul out of the Miami Heat. And I think it just comes down to what you just said, dude. Like, it's been a little bit of an aberration up to this point. It's been a well coached Miami Heat team. I think that's been the biggest thing when they went up 3-0 is just like what I said last week. There's such a big coaching discrepancy with Joe Mazzulla and then Spo, where Spo's just a much better coach, and he's still a much better coach. But I think what happened was that Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart kind of looked at their bench, saw that Joe Mazzulla was their coach, and said, "Fuck this, let's just take over, screw this guy." And talent is overcoming the lack of talent on the other end, and it's just not even close.
Yeah, the talent's certainly winning out, and it is crazy that it's like, I mean, Derek White, the most notoriety he had gotten during this playoff run to this point was just Shaq and Barkley laughing at his hairline on TNT, which is just like one of the million tremendous viral NBA TNT moments that never cease to amaze me. Like, I'll never not find myself just laughing at an inside the NBA little deal. There's like also a clip going around too of Bam Adebayo going like, even when we were number one seed, you still didn't respect us, Chuck. And he goes, and did you win? And he's like, no. And I'm like, and he's like, all right. And it's kind of like, yeah, buddy. So it's amazing how like the lack of self awareness NBA players can have will never cease to amaze me. Like, but all of that aside, yeah, I just think the series is over now. Like the cream is rising to the top. They've let the momentum get completely out of hand, and this isn't baseball where all of a sudden you have that starter coming in Game 7
No, it's
that
the
can like
same players.
that can flip. No, it's the same guys. You got to trot out all the same stuff, and all the stuff that was working now isn't working. And even if it's close, now it's just that Boston and that home crowd in Game 7, and the nice thing is, I mean, after all of this playoffs, which hasn't been, I wouldn't say it's been a highly dramatic playoffs by any means. Boston run's been dramatic, but the rest of it really hasn't been. So I guess we're just thankful for that, right? The best two words in sports, Game 7.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And if it comes down to it, where you have a rested Jokic who's been sitting on his couch for a week and a half, just getting rested, and then a worn out Boston Celtics team, I'm still going to hang my hat on this Nuggets team. I think they could get it done, and it's going to be wild because at the end of the day, like seeding kind of prevails, and the number one team in the West is going to play the number two team in the East. But
Right.
still, we've been saying the whole time that Boston and Milwaukee were the two best teams. It just so happened that Milwaukee shit the bed, but this is why seeding matters. This is why you never really see like an eighth seed playing in the finals. Very, very rarely, So it's going to be fun. I look forward to tomorrow night. I think we're both agreeing that Boston's going to get it done. I did want to mention though, you mentioned that NBA players' lack of self awareness was one of your favorite things. One of my favorite things going on right now with the lack of self awareness is the if you have this on your bingo card, I want to shake your hand, but the Steve Van Gundy and Tyler Hero beef going on right now, where Van Gundy made fun of Hero's outfit on the sideline, and it was a goofy ass outfit. And then Hero chirped back at him, and then Steve Van Gundy again chirped back at him. Like, this is why I love NBA basketball. It's the drama you didn't even know existed.
So completely unnecessary. I didn't even know that this was going on. So this is like, you almost got the same wow from the pregnancy. I'm like, wow, really? No, not quite.
Dude,
But
you got homework then, buddy, because let
yeah,
me
I didn't
tell
even
you,
know
after
that
this
was going
pod,
on. Now I know exactly without even seeing what the commentary was. I know the exact outfit he's talking about though, because I know I was
the
looking
bucket
at him
hat,
going like, really? Is this the fit? Are we sure? Are we
dude,
sure?
the bucket hat with like the oversized clothes.
Yeah,
It's like if the 90s and the early 2000s had a baby, and this
I
is what we give
know.
Tyler Hero. It's fantastic. I love it.
And when you're hurt, I mean, I'm not
You
saying,
you can't draw attention to yourself like
yeah,
that.
like that's the thing. I was like, to me, it's just like in my mind, I'm like, you're hurt, so like probably just lay low, like just kind of stay out of it, like really not your moment, sort of. But no, it never fails with NBA guys that. I mean, I mean, God, I can't help it, but the sun stuff. But that's Da looking like an idiot. You know what I mean? Like when you're mad at him and he's like putting sunglasses on, you're like, this guy.
So let me school you on the beef real quick. Van Gundy said, the number one reason the Heat need Tyler Hero back because his fashion is so bad on the bench. We need him in uniform. And then Tyler Hero went to Instagram and said, my fashion, quote unquote, as bad as he was on the sideline. And then Van Gundy chirped back and said, some guys get real sensitive. Some of us can laugh at ourselves. This is why I'm here. because the TNT guys just get it done either in studio or even the sideline guys like Van Gundy. And Van Gundy's always been like this. He's always
TNT.
been ready to dish it.
Yeah, he has always been ready to go. This is like he's had a pretty good year on social media. Not so good that you still are calling him Steve and not Stan, but like it's still.
Jesus
But
Christ.
I'm like going. It's definitely not Steve, but I just can't even think of the. I can only think of Jeff. I can only think of Jeff.
By the
But
way,
yeah,
Stan Van Gundy and Jeff Van Gundy being brothers is always going to be wild to me because Jeff Van Gundy looks like just a nerd, and Stan Van Gundy looks like he should be out in his front yard just mowing his lawn. Like, it just makes no sense to me. Both great coaches, though.
Jeff at the bottom of that Knicks Heat scrap, hanging onto Alonzo Mourning's leg, like will never leave my brain. So like Jeff is always like, never can fit into his suit guy, like, that's giant around the neck. He has like a skinny little neck. Yeah, Jeff will forever
Huge
be
receding
like this
hairline.
tiny guy. And then, then yeah, I think Stan actually gives off more like, retired mafia. I don't know what's like, I don't, it's an interesting look that he's got. Stan probably shouldn't be talking fashion, but like, of course he's just making random commentary. It's hilarious that these, like, can you imagine even thinking you are getting chirped by 6-year-old Stan, who earlier this year, like, remember he had that little like thing with KD where KD said like Stan spitting, basically saying like, "Hey, what Stan's saying is great," but Stan started like backing down, like, "Sorry, KD, I wasn't trying to." And he's like, "I agree with you, dude. I agree with you. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it in modern terminology." And so, why would you like take this old man? I mean, and he's not some old man. I'm not trying to pin this on him, but I'm like, why would that opinion matter to you for fashion? Why would Stan
Yeah.
like if Stan Van Gundy told me my fit sucked? I'm just going to take that with a grain of salt.
Dude, Stan Van Gundy, like you're mentioning Jeff's, his memory being ingrained in your brain, but mine is just him going up, Stan going up into the presser with Dwight Howard and absolutely just throwing him under the bus and eviscerating him.
Yeah,
And Dwight Howard now says that was the worst day of his life. Like, the Van Gundy brothers please never leave us. You guys are the greatest.
I think they're really quality though. Like I think both of them do a good job on the games. Like
No, they do. Yeah,
they're both
absolutely.
really solid. Jeff complaining about the officials the entire time. I like Stan's honesty as well, and dude, you can't defend Dwight Howard. My
No,
God,
you can't. My man's out in Taiwan shooting threes right now
he
and
is just I
clowning
mean,
everybody that leaves the playoffs.
dude, what an incredible talent and just a guy who just was doing whatever he was doing. I don't I'll be happy to watch like a 3-hour documentary breaking down what exactly the Dwight Howard situation was.
All-time career arc for sure, dude. Like, comes into the
Absolutely.
league, looks like he's 30, absolutely destroys people, wins defensive player of the year a few times, wins a slam dunk contest a few times, and then just completely out of the league, playing in Taiwan of all places, like 5 years later. Like,
Yeah.
what did
Absolute
happen?
Hall of Fame for 10 years and like is talented as a player that's maybe ever been in the league, honestly. I mean, just
Yeah.
from like an athleticism standpoint, what his body looked like, what he could do on the court. And then was just, weird, just weird. And then now he's shooting threes. I don't know. Yeah, Dwight Howard is an interesting cat. I don't know. We've come a long way from. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. But
We've gone off the rails for sure.
yeah, I was like, we came in with Hoodie Melo. Like, what we know where this would go. This is NBA talk, just general
Yeah,
NBA talk. Yeah.
absolutely. But with wrapping that one up, what I will say is I think absolutely the Celtics win tomorrow night. They go into the finals. I do think it's going to be a good finals matchup only because I think Robert Williams is a good defender, but then again, like Jokic absolutely destroyed Anthony Davis. So Jokic is going to get his. Jaylen Brown can definitely guard Jamal Murray. I think that's been proven because he's just one of the better defenders in the league. Jason Tatum's going to have a tougher time with Aaron Gordon, but pretty close on paper matchup. But I do think the Nuggets are deeper and they are well rested and they're on a heater. Are you taking the Nuggets in that series?
Probably.
I know
Um,
you're not a Nuggets guy.
No, it's not. Yeah, I'm not super sold on them, and it still feels like if you told me going into this that like these would be the two teams, I would tell you that Boston overall, I think it may be more talented. So I would want to lean that way. Although the funnier outcome is honestly just that the Heat end up winning Game 7 for no reason whatsoever, despite everything we said. The funniest possible thing is that the Heat still win this thing,
Listen
and that
here. That is
yeah,
what is going to happen because that's
yeah.
what happens on this
So just
podcast.
go ahead and put that down, and in which case it's definitely the Nuggets in like 5 or 6. I don't see the Heat hanging with them at all because that team
No.
still doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I would yes, I would imagine that it's Boston, and then I probably would ultimately favor the Nuggets, although it certainly becomes a much more interesting series. But you just would think the advantage of the rest and all of this stuff, like that at some point that stuff's going to pay off. Than just how easy it's been for Denver, relatively speaking. And does it make you feel better about the Suns, by the way, looking back and knowing that we
Oh
won two
yeah.
games? Like, do you actually now, like, right when we're continuing to do the spin zone game? Suns are the second best team in the league, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we went 7 games, right? Like we lost in game 7. We got blown out because that's what we do in elimination games.
It
But
was a game 6, but yeah.
oh, it was my game 7. I'm sorry, but
Okay, yeah. 6 ipso facto. Yeah, sure, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
but the Suns have looked the best against the Nuggets, who are looking like the best team in the NBA right now, and that was with a just dilapidated roster that didn't have Chris Paul, that had no bench. So freaking Doc Rivers, come on down and fix it, I guess. I don't know. Oh, kill me now. Let's talk about that really quick before I forget. The Suns head coaching search is about to come to close. The Milwaukee Bucks head coaching search did just come to a close. They hired Adrian Griffin, which again, you want to mention about feeling old. I remember when Adrian Griffin played in the NBA. I don't know if
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just this keeps happening where I keep feeling older and older. I remember when Ty Lue got stepped over by Allen Iverson. I was watching that game, and
One of the best
now
moments
he's
ever.
now he's one of the coaching candidates I would love to be on the Suns, but alas, that's not going to happen. It has come down to apparently, and I say apparently, this is a Raptors beat writers reporting that is come down to Doc Rivers and Nick Nurse. That's where the Raptors connection comes in, and that we'll have an answer soon. I do know last week we reported that, well, we didn't report. Shams Charania reported that the Suns brass, including owner Matt Ishbia, we're going to be meeting with candidates in Michigan. And then John Gambadoro, local sports talk radio host, refuted that, said, hey, it's happening in Phoenix, which good, because we were clowning the fact that it was going to be in frickin' Michigan. They interviewed a whole panel of candidates that we covered last week. And now I guess it's come down to these two. One of them being Doc Rivers, who I said I would literally like self-harm myself if he became the head coach. John, how close am I, do you think, just, ending it all?
To self-harm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Doc Rivers thing does make me nervous. I know like when you talked about like the original candidate list, like you were already much more pessimistic about how I felt as that group as a whole. The one common thread that we certainly did share though was like, please not Doc.
Yes.
And it's a weird thing because he's a guy that's won and obviously carries a lot of clout in this league and so on. But the problem to me, and it's like not really about, you know, so there is a thing where there's just like the narrative around Doc. So that is, I think, a problem when like you're already given the amount of drama and sort of hangover that the Suns have carried from the last
2
two
years.
exits from the playoffs. Doc carrying a lot of that baggage himself, I don't think bodes well for how the internet will react to a Doc Rivers
Yep.
Suns thing. So from just like a pure noise standpoint, I don't like it. But like that's the one thing we definitely agreed on was just like it just can't be Doc. But the problem with Doc is when you look at it and you compare him to Monty is that it's just a lot of the same. It's
Oh, it's the
like
exact same.
it's just the same thing. Like that's what we can't make changes to just do the same thing. So I'm just really fingers crossed that it's Nick Nurse, that his like that Nick Nurse's endearment with the way Kevin Durant's endearment with Nick Nurse and the way that he defended KD previously is like the conversation that was had enough to where the trust is there, and that's the opportunity. It sounds like obviously it ran its course in Toronto and there was some weird stuff. I don't know. Have you really heard anything? I've never really heard anything since sort of just that initial chatter that, oh, some people didn't like him as he was leaving, but like no one seems to have really dug into it much further. And I haven't really, so I'm led to believe that Nick Nurse might work, and I'm just really hoping it's that. And if it's him and Doc, that's my choice. I'll just simply say that.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm right there with you, and like I think even hindsight is 2020. Looking at the list of candidates from last week, um, I think I would have been able to stomach really any of them except Doc. What I really want to know with Doc is like, how's this dude keep getting top level jobs? Like, he won one championship with the most loaded Celtics team like ever. That was just like absolutely dominated by Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen's insane shooting, and then Paul Pierce shitting his pants. Um, Outside of that, he hasn't done anything, but keeps getting these jobs. And then the only thing I know about Nick Nurse is I know that he had this narrative around him that he absolutely just like, he's kind of like Thibodeau. He runs his teams into the ground,
Right.
plays his stars like 45 minutes a game, which I don't love that with a 30 soon to be 35-year-old Kevin Durant and a Devin Booker who just has an insane amount of mileage on his tires due to the fact that he was drafted by the Phoenix Suns in 2015. But
Right.
it also wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking like a year ago that Nick Nurse was like kind of where Tyronn Lue is now. Like teams wanted to trade for Nick Nurse. Like they wanted, like every team that had a coaching vacancy wanted Nick Nurse. And now all of a sudden there's this stigma around him like, well, no, we don't want that guy. Like, look what he did with Toronto. He won one championship with a mercenary Kawhi and couldn't do anything after that. But to be fair, what did the Raptors really do to help strengthen his team too, right? Like they had Pascal Siakam, who I've gone on this podcast. I think Pascal's great. They gave a lot of money to Fred VanVleet, who hasn't done a whole lot, but he's still like, I think what, a 20 point per game scorer. Like he's not bad, just not, I mean, he's like 5'9", so that's his problem. But I mean, OG Anunoby, they did draft Scotty Barnes, but they haven't really given him a lot of star power to like kind of recreate that run since they did it for Kawhi. So maybe you bring Nick Nurse on, you strengthen the team a little bit. I think that could work really well, and I think stylistically, he's different enough from Monty that it could make a real impact change. The thing with me is just like whatever you do with the Suns team, I guess it doesn't really matter who you instill at head coach if you don't make any other moves. You know, like you still have to trade DeAndre, and you still have to figure out what the hell you want to do with Chris Paul, and then you still have to build out a bench. But if we're just going to keep it with the head coaches, I wouldn't mind Nick Nurse.
So you're fine. No self
Yeah,
harm. Have a white
no,
Russian.
but
Relax, buddy.
no, I know. Hey, I will definitely have a white Russian if it's Nick Nurse. That's fine. If it's freaking Doc, I'll have a different form of Russian and it ends with the roulette. But I mean, that is what it is, you know.
Do you think we've already renamed the White Russian, by the way? Can we say, like, have we done sort of like the Freedom Fries thing?
I think if we haven't, the time is now. You know, I
Yeah.
think
I think I could, I
solidarity
could
with
use a
Ukraine.
rebrand.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. Right, white Russian alternative name.
Yeah, like why isn't that just called the Duder now or whatever? You know what I mean? Like why isn't it one
I
of
see it called a blind Russian. I don't think it's any better.
no, it doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem
What is
like
the
it.
new name of white Russian drink? A white Ukrainian. That's what they're calling it.
Is
Jesus,
that what
guys,
they yeah, they
be
would.
better. Be
Yeah,
better.
they
It's
would
come
just do
on.
that. Yeah, they would. It's just the easy, take the easy way out. Sure, sure.
Are we serious? Come on. We can do way better than that.
Yeah.
uh, our
But you're
generation
right. Suns
sucks.
roster, like that's really to me. Well, I'm glad. I think you're with me. I think you're where I was a week ago because I still felt like the biggest thing that needed to happen was just if they get
Foster
this
moves.
roster
Yeah.
right, then Like there's any number of coaches that can be right with Kevin Durant and Book if you put
Yep.
the right pieces around them. I certainly think Nick Nurse is capable of that because he's had a good roster in Toronto. But when he had a good roster with a superstar on it, he won.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking him to do here, right? We're not asking him to do anything that he hasn't done before. It's like, hey, you have these guys. You have that special player. In this case, I think you actually get two, which is incredible. And now let's figure this thing out. So I think it can be a really good move, and I'm okay. I'm okay with it. But the Doc Rivers thing would just be weird. I just think it's a weird
The
vibe,
recycle.
weird guy. It is very much a recycle in so many different ways.
Yep. I totally agree with you. If we're gonna look at Nick Nurse, I kind of want to see what his like roster construction kind of is. I'm trying to remember that team. I'm looking it up as we speak, but like
Like the
they
championship
had
team,
yeah, they had Marc Gasol on that team. I
they
completely
did.
forgot he even
Yeah. Anchor is
existed.
their defense. Yep.
Yeah. So we're looking at kind of rebuilding that Raptors team. I think you kind of have your Kawhi and Kevin Durant. You have, I mean, Devin Booker. I don't think he's ever really had a player of his caliber on that team. Yeah, definitely not. But then at point guard, you just need somebody along the likes of like a Kyle Lowry slash Fred VanVleet. You kind of have the Kyle Lowry if you keep Chris Paul, but you definitely need that Fred VanVleet because I remember that 2019 Raptors team. Fred VanVleet was incredible. Like you come off the bench and just instantly change a game. And then you just need to find a way to find like a Pascal Siakam and like kind of an anchor at center, like a Marcus Gasol. So I'm trying to think who's out there that you could even really get. Um, I mean, you could try to go out and get Pascal Siakam. You could probably work out a trade for DeAndre Ayton with that. I wouldn't hate that. I think he would fit in really nicely as kind of a third star behind Booker and Durant. Um, and then a defensive center. I don't know, man. Do you have any thoughts on what you want the roster to look like?
I don't. I
Yeah,
I I mean, it just
it's
depends on
tough.
what's. It's just hard because I don't know what's out there, and I don't. I think I don't think you can just copy and paste what happened in Toronto
True.
into
Kind of
this
have to
thing. I mean,
evolve.
it's like a good thought exercise. So like I get what you're doing, but I don't know that like that's just how this is going to work. There's not even a lot of Marc Gasol types necessarily even around anymore. Like there's like three of those guys probably in the league, but there's just not a lot. So I don't know exactly. I just know that there needs to be a little bit more depth, and I still think there can be a scheme thing, and I'm still as sociopathic as this might sound. I'm still not even fully invested on the idea that like you have to move eight. I
Oh, buddy.
It just depends on. Well, I just think
You're
it
sticking
depends
to your
on.
brand, dude. You're
Yeah,
sticking to your
man. I
brand
just
as
think
the
it
Aiton
depends.
defender number one.
I just think it depends on like what you're telling me comes back. Now, I'm like way more open to the idea than I was previously, and if his value is relative to like what some of the rumors are, then like that's great news for the Suns because I think they have options. Basically, is what I would say, beyond what maybe some people might think. So if they can move him and they can actually bring pieces back, great. I just still think they're still unfortunately in that same position where if he's a better asset on your team than what is worth coming back, then I just think you have to consider it, whatever it looks like and whatever that means.
Well, it sounds like you got your ear to the ground a little bit, kind of. Like, what are you hearing that kind of perks your interest? I've seen a lot of stuff with the Pacers that hasn't gone away for a year. I've heard the Portland Trailblazers for the number 3 overall pick.
Yeah.
What would you consider a good return for Aiton?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that Dallas deal. So the Dallas deal is basically like
No,
a
stay away from that.
Hardaway
Yeah.
driven, like JaVale McGee,
Ugh.
a
They're
23rd
like
pick, whatever
10
it is
pick.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it's 10. Yeah, it could be up a little further. So that doesn't interest me. That's what I've seen. I think the Portland stuff's interesting because if you actually are kind of just swapping quote unquote bad contract bigs and you get Nurkic and then you're able to add some other pieces around it.
Like Scoot, if you can get the number
Yeah,
3
then
overall
yeah,
pick,
and yes,
oof.
and if it actually is something like the number three pick, and you can actually draft an impact player, yes, then like, and
That
you
can
can sort
grow
of,
with Booker.
yes, then I think there's some like interesting things there. I think some of the drafts were like with the opportunity for you to take a swing at something younger it's just like an interesting thought that hadn't even come into my mind, just because you kind of think, oh, they're just going to keep taking these swings at older guys, which I am worried they're going to do. I'd still like to see them build a youth around these guys. I think in my mind, that's what makes sense. Put like young legs around these guys that are just like hungry guys that are just have energy. Like that's what seemed that group seemed to be missing, was just fresh legs, guys that looked like hungry. Just any version of that. Like Aiton should be that, but he's not. So again, I'm open to it. The Portland deal is probably the most interesting kind of stuff I've heard. I don't really buy into the Pacers stuff. It seems like
Hmm.
they're really I feel like they like Miles now, and so like I don't really think there's much there. The rest of the roster is
I would
kind of weird.
love Miles on our team, by the way. Oh my God, that would be great.
Yeah, and maybe looking back, who knows? Maybe that's the move that was out there that they could have made. I don't know, but I'm definitely open minded about what the Aiton situation is. I'll just say that I'm not in the forever defend him camp, but I also just think like people lose their mind and get so reactionary where it's like trade, 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 and it's like, but what comes back? Like what comes back?
Hmm.
What comes back? So we'll see,
Yeah.
man.
For me, I would love the Portland deal if it included the number 3 pick. Then you go get Scoot. He can either play super sub to Chris Paul, and Chris Paul can play 20 minutes a game, and Scoot can play the rest.
So here's the deal. You
It,
got to trade Chris Paul. To me, like that is the one that absolutely has to go.
yeah, for sure. No, I was going to get to that, but if you can't, like, because I'm with me, it's the same way with any trade, right? Like the value has to meet or exceed what you already have on the team. So if you're just getting a couple of just shit bench players for Chris Paul, I guess the cap savings do like play a huge part in this. But I don't want to trade him for peanuts either, because like his leadership is a thing, especially with a new coaching change. But if you can make the Portland deal and it includes Nurkic in the number 3 overall pick, I like Nurk. I think he's like the perfect center that would fit this team really well. Huge rebounder, not afraid to get physical, which we talked about that too, right? Like we just
Yeah.
don't have enough guys that are dogs. He's a dog. And then if you can get Scoot, my God, like that's a guy, that's your future point guard in waiting, and terrific guy to pair up with Booker long term. Um, I'm with you. I hate the Dallas idea. I don't want to give Luka anything, because the moment you give Luka Aiton's going to turn into just a superstar, because that's how this works on this podcast. And then the indie idea, if you can get me like Miles Turner, who great rim runner, great defender, good rebounder, can shoot the 3 a little bit too, and then you get maybe like their pick, and then who was that guy that they drafted? Duarte would be a good bench piece too. That one I don't hate. And then I think Toronto's been mentioned for Aiton, but I don't know where they're really sitting with their whole roster construction. So we'll see, man. I think it's going to get, as soon as they hire a coach, it's going to get hot and heavy, especially with the draft coming up too. I think
Yeah.
the moment the NBA Finals is over, you're going to see some really big rumors with the Suns. And I'm a sicko. I love that stuff. So,
Oh,
I'm
it's
the
like,
type.
yeah, it's debatably the best part of it. So,
Yeah,
I
I'm all
mean,
about being just an armchair GM all day. I'll sit here and do that repeatedly, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, come on down, Nick Nurse. That's what I'm trying to see. So um, that's basketball talk for the week. Some NFL news drop that's pretty juicy. The Arizona Cardinals sticking into the valley. They went ahead and released DeAndre Hopkins. Were you as shocked as I was?
well, I mean, I would say shocked, except for that's the Cardinals. So just par. I put it down as par. I put it down as
uh,
God, this organization is stupid. It's still being run by a Bidwell. It's so obvious. God.
yeah, and here's the thing. You want to talk about stupid? This was like the all-time stupid for me, because you had
Yeah.
all the way
Preach.
up to the draft to trade this guy. He made it very abundantly clear that he did not want to be there. Um, and even if you traded him for like a 5th round pick, it's
Just take
more
the
than what
fifth
you
rounder.
got.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't. This will literally texting this to my brother's Cardinals fan. I'm like, well, just take the fifth rounder, take the fourth rounder, whatever. Just take
it's better than
whatever you
nothing.
get. Something is better than nothing. I've always been told something's better than nothing. Yeah, it's.
That is the golden rule. You
Yeah, I mean,
know?
like it's like you don't have to be that smart, and I'm really not claiming to be, but something in your hand is normally better than the nothing that you had before. Yeah, Cardinals. So no, I'm not. I mean, shocked, yes, like, but also no. Sadly for Cardinals fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, and you can tell Jake that we're real sorry that his team is shit, but um,
Yeah, he's
um,
having a rough week, man. He was not happy.
I'm
Like
sure he wasn't.
the language changes real quick. Maybe an extra exclamation point. Like you can just tell when someone's
Yeah.
mood flips on something like that. You just and you know too. Like even when you're yeah, I think my other brother started it first, but you're kind of going in with your friend that already his team did the dumbest thing, and you're just like, just checking in. It doesn't matter how you're saying it. They're like,
The
yeah, yeah,
worst
fuck you. Like,
kind.
how dare you ask me? Yeah, you know exactly what you came for. Here's your
Oh
blood
man.
money. Yeah, like,
Yeah. It's like somebody goes through a bad divorce. You're like, hey, you good, buddy? Like, no, they're
yeah,
not fucking
exactly.
good.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna come
uh,
with fire, but you're like kind of happy to see that you're like, yeah, yeah, just like spit off about
yeah.
this. Yeah,
The dumbest part about this too is like I think part of the reason why the Cardinals didn't trade him before is because they didn't want to have to eat the salary at
yeah.
all.
This is dead cap.
And now this is a pre-June 1st cut. Like they couldn't even wait till June 1st. They went ahead and did it now. Now they're eating 23 million on the cap and they have nothing to show for it. Like
And the only
Cardinal
thing I can figure,
fans,
are they just trying to like tank so bad? Like, is this like, are they somehow going to try to tell us like this is the
dude,
best way
I
of
don't
tank?
know.
Like, they can't even sign anybody.
This
Like,
franchise is just insane, dude. Like they gave all that money to Kyler Murray, who would rather play Call of Duty than play quarterback. They hired a coach and they did it so poorly that they had to give up draft compensation due to tampering. It's just a bid well run team, like you said, and like they've been a joke in the valley for their existence. It's insane, dude. Like it's absolutely crazy to me. And now DeAndre Hopkins is a hot commodity. And some teams are about to get really, really a lot better because that dude is still him. Like he was still putting up some monster numbers when he came back from the PED suspension.
that's all he's ever done is put up numbers. Uh, you know, this is still the same guy who's cruising in a convertible, flipping off Donald Trump. I mean, he's gonna do his thing out there. Guy's a cheat. Guy's gonna go out there and he's just gonna play football and get it done. So I don't think it really matters where he shows up. Like as you mentioned, he's gonna be good. He's still gonna be a guy. I think he. I mean, I presume he's like moving towards the back half of his career, and the only way we'll know for sure is if the Ravens sign him. That's when we know he's no longer a good wide receiver. That's the only way to find out for sure.
Oh man, well, hey, I'm glad you mentioned it because the teams that have been linked already, you have the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. They were the two teams apparently that were trying to trade
Scary.
for him. Yeah, God, that is scary. They both have no
Nobody
cap
wants
room.
that.
Like I think the Chiefs have like 500K in cap. The Bills have like 1.3 mil, like absolutely nothing. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles because that's what everybody would love to see is just an Eagles team that's already just completely and utterly stacked, getting DeAndre Hopkins to go with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And then you have our two teams. Yes, the jump shots from the goal line guy,
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins, can choose from the Los Angeles Chargers or the Baltimore Ravens. Out of those five teams, the one that has the most cap room today, because we'll get into this, you can always do some cap finagling. The cap is not real, apparently, but it's my
It's not.
Baltimore Ravens with like 14 mil or like 11 mil. They have plenty of room to make this happen. If he goes to the Chargers, do the Chargers have the best wide receiver room in the league?
I think if he goes to the Chargers, yes. I think where he goes, though, if we're talking about, I mean, that Eagles team, right? Same thing. If he goes to that Eagles team, there's no doubt. Like, then to me, that's the
Mm-hmm.
best wide receiver room. There's a couple of teams that are already basically in that, like, probably floating around that top 10 area.
Yep.
And as we mentioned, he's a guy that's absolutely going to change that dynamic. You slot
Yeah.
everybody over a spot when he comes into your room. There's probably what? I mean, how many receivers do you think you could even argue are better than him? Like probably no more than 5 to 10, right?
Ooh, Justin Jefferson for sure, because he's just like insane.
But I mean, it's probably like 10-ish, right? Like there's 10 guys you would even like hear
Dude,
the
I
argument
don't
for, and
even
there's no way it goes
10
much
is a
past that.
lot, bro.
Right.
When he's playing, he's
Yeah.
insane. Like he's so good. Like he's top 3, dude, when he's playing. So I completely agree with you. Now, if he goes to the Chargers, they definitely I think have the best wide receiver room in the country because they'll have him, they'll have Mike, they'll have Keenan, and they'll have your boy Quentin.
Win. Yep.
Yeah, and that's just an insane room. Let me ask you though, drafting Quentin, do you think is that gonna impede his development at all? And does that kind of make you a little bit like apprehensive to sign somebody like DeAndre?
No.
I'm glad you said that because I saw an article today that was like, "Oh, Chargers have room to do it, but they shouldn't because that'll impede Quentin's development." And I was like, "You guys are stupid."
That's so stupid. That's so dumb. No, I can't even stand that. Like whoever wrote that, just no.
It's
Think about
probably
your
your
life.
GM, bro.
Think about your. Yeah, it probably was. It probably was literally our owner. It's probably Spanos leaking that to this guy. But yeah, that stuff is so dumb. Like I'm sorry. Like, hey man, like I'm really excited we signed you. Like we drafted you in the first round. That's very exciting for you. I don't care if we have to wait 2 or 3 years for you to become a premier target. Like I don't care. No, like I want to win one Super Bowl, Dugan. I want to win it once. I'd like to win it more, but I'd be really happy if we could just win it one time. And it
You
seems
think
like
he'd
he
get
would
you
be
there?
helpful. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think he would help. I think he can help. I don't know that he can. I'm not, I don't think a wide receiver guarantees you anything, but I definitely think it makes that a real nice room for Herbert. And it would be nice to see, certainly, him have 3 to 4 really solid receivers out there. And honestly, these other guys are hurt, man. Like Quentin's going to play. Like Mike is already catching a ball right now in OTAs where he's going to land on his hip. I can see it. So, I mean, he can't not leave his feet to catch the ball. So
you
inevitably, there's
already
enough
you
balls
already
to
know
go
your
around.
head coach is playing Mike way too many snaps in OTAs,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. Yeah, right. Like we already have the division locked up. We're in the playoffs, and still, he's got him running nines. So it's yeah. I
uh,
mean, yes. I'm glad someone had the balls to write that article, but you're an idiot.
and you know what? I feel the same way about the Ravens. We just drafted Zay Flowers, but like if you're able to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, line him up across Odell Beckham Jr., have Rashad Bateman in the slot, have Zay Flowers backing him up in the slot, having 4 guys that are just I mean, the Ravens have never had even close to the wide receiver talent they have right now, let alone if they added DeAndre Hopkins. The wrinkle in all of this is that when Lamar Jackson was still negotiating his contract, there was a rumor out there that he has since corroborated, well, kind of, that he would sign with the Ravens only if they got Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins. He has come out since then and said, I didn't make that a must have, but I did say when we got Odell Beckham Jr., hey, can we go out and get D Hop? Because he's out here trying to play Madden. Those were his words on the Ravens podcast. Knowing that now and knowing that they can go out and not give up any compensation for DeAndre Hopkins, I think with the amount of cap room they have and the offense that they are now running, DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens could certainly be a betting favorite. Am I wrong?
No, that's my lean. And like to your point, it's the same thing with Zay, right? That it is with QJ. It's like, yeah, you draft a guy knowing you need to get that guy, not knowing for sure that the Cardinals are going to do exactly what we did. We talked about just now and be like, wait, you're doing what?
I think
Like you
everybody
can't
had an idea
bet
that they might
on
do
it.
that because,
Yeah,
track
sure.
record.
Sure. But that's what I mean. But you can't bet on that for sure. You're going to grab the guy when it's available. But then if another guy comes along who happens to be a Hall of Fame talent and he's available, then yeah, you should go. But I do think I think my heavy lean is Baltimore. The part that I do find really interesting about that with OBJ, I don't know. I'm not sure like really what's left there for him. Like he might come back and be awesome, but if he wasn't, that also wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical of what OBJ is.
Yeah. think he's best of the two right now, right? Kind of like how he was in LA with Cooper Cup.
Right. Yes. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't have signed him either. Like, I was telling someone last year that, like, yeah, man, if you could get a chance at this guy, like, whatever, like, throw a flyer at him, like, absolutely, why not? Guy's been a stud. But what's interesting to me is that I think there's at least like some like I don't know, I guess conception. I always say misconception. Can you just have a conception? Um,
Sure.
but I
On
guess
this
the thought,
podcast, you can.
I think there is like some people that are thinking probably that wide receivers probably as a destination wouldn't choose Lamar Jackson, right? He's still a quote unquote running quarterback, whatever that means, right?
But but he did come out and say, and this is why both of our teams are in the running, that he would love to play with a legend, his words, legend, like Lamar Jackson. He also said the same thing about Herbert, too, that he would love to play with somebody like Justin Herbert. So the misconception of people not wanting to go to Baltimore because you think he's going to just run the ball all the time. Number one, you can combat that with they don't have Greg Roman anymore. He ain't calling the shots. And two, I think more receivers than we realize want to play with somebody like Lamar.
I would tend to lean and agree with you, and I think it's more of a myth than like what's reality. I just think
Yeah,
there's not like people say these things and they're easy to say because there's not like these guys aren't on the market all the time. That's just not how this
right.
works. You're not always going
No.
to have a top 10 receiver making moves. The Tyreek Hill now it is becoming more and more common because we've seen Tyreek Hill shift. We saw who else did we see? We just saw who's in Philadelphia. I'm going to forget his name
AJ
right now.
Brown.
But we just saw AJ Brown. So we are seeing like bigger moves from these wide receivers kind of floating around. It becomes that position that I guess maybe you can grab a guy every summer now, but traditionally, that's not how it works. So I just don't think that. So I think it was an easy thing to say, cash in on, and prove yourself right, because that's
Yep.
just the way, But I think that's why I'm really interested to see, because if he does, then I think it really changes the narrative on, you know, who do guys really want to play with, and does it really matter if he throws the ball 45 times a game or not?
Yep. And I think no matter what happens, if DeAndre chooses the Chargers, if he chooses the Ravens, if he chooses the Eagles, if he chooses the Bills, that's going to impact the whole landscape of the league. And when we talk about top five wide receiver cores, when I think of the top five wide receiver cores, I think you can kind of like back me up on this. I look at teams like the Seahawks who have like, DK, Tyler Lockett. They just added Smith and Jigba. You think about the Dolphins, you just mentioned um, freaking Cheetah out there, and they have Waddle. You mentioned the Bengals with Chase and T. Higgins. You think about the Eagles, which we just mentioned, and then your Chargers. That's kind of my top five wide receiver cores. But if he signs with pretty much any of those teams, they go up to maybe like one or two in terms of like wide receiver cores. And even with the Ravens, like you add somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, you have Odell Beckham Jr. on the other side, and then the other guys I mentioned, they're definitely squarely in the top, like at least one or two in terms of wide receiver cores in the league, right?
Yeah, I think that like there's no doubt they move into the top five. I mean, you added a first round talent, and now you're adding a Hall of Fame guy. You added OBJ, and the other guys were somewhat productive last year. I mean, they're
Yeah.
guys who
Bateman, when
actually
healthy,
catch the
was
ball.
one of the
Right,
best receivers in the league up until he got healthy, or
right.
until he got hurt.
That's what I mean. When you move those guys to 3 and 4 and that sort of thing, and you start talking about, or like if you start moving like Palmer as your fifth best receiver on the Chargers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any of these squads, if sort of anyone that are like you would debate are somewhere hovering around the top 10, are clearly going to make a large jump. He's just that much of
Yep.
an impact guy. So I'm like firmly there with you in that. That I think it greatly changes the dynamic and puts a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson, though.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But I think he kind of wants that. Really, the only team I think you add him to it and it doesn't make their wide receiver core top five would be the Chiefs. But he would still put up insane numbers with somebody like Patrick Mahomes throwing on the ball in that offense. It's just the rest of the receiver core is just kind of a bunch of, just jags, just guys. So I don't want to see that happen because the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl and you give them a Hall of Fame receiver, they're probably going to do it again. And I don't want to see him go to the Bills because kind of the same thing. You add him with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, like, God, that's just not fair. But like I said, both those two teams have next to nothing cap room. But I know you're a big proponent of, hey, the cap isn't real.
It's not. It's been proven time and time again. I
Yep.
mean, I don't really know how else to look at it any other way other than, again, it started this thing. It was like, oh, the Chargers are in cap hell going this offseason. They're screwed. And now we're talking, and it's like they're one of the only teams that can actually make an offer to this guy. So
Yep.
I don't know what any of this is. And then even if, like, it looked like it was going to be a nightmare situation with Eckler, they throw a couple like, hey, if you hit these numbers, you get a couple more bucks. Running backs
Yep.
don't have any leverage in this league. I think that was pretty obvious pretty quickly.
Absolutely
Like, man,
none.
boy, did he get swept right under the rug. They're just like, yeah, shut up.
Yep.
Which is tough, man. It's like, because Eckler's like a really nice guy, busts his ass, and I want to see him like get paid, but I'm also like, sit here and be like, hey, don't pay running backs in this league. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I love
I
Bijan
don't know
Robinson.
what
I still don't understand why the Falcons took him where they did, but it
I
is what
don't
it
know
is.
what Eckler thought he was going to accomplish with his trade demand, because like you just said, man, nobody's trading that guy and extending him for big money. Like,
No.
it was always going to be either, hey, here's a few shekels and shut up, or it's going to be, hey, see you later, go sign for $2 million with somebody
If the
else.
guy makes an extra $2 million though, then I say well played, sir. You know what I mean? Like if it ends up to $2 million more dollars in a short window to make money in this guy's life, then that's awesome. So good for him, and whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, it's
Well,
the NFL and the salary cap. What a joke. But do you think your
OTAs.
Ravens are gonna do it? Think they'll get it done?
I would love to see it. I would absolutely jump out my chair if they did. The smoke is there, the money's there. The quarterback is seemingly kind of driving the roster construction. It seems like if you watch the draft, and you watched, they finally paid a receiver. So again, betting favorite. I lean with you. I lean that way, and I can't believe I'm even saying it. And let's be honest, he fits the Ravens mold. A 30-something wide receiver that's been really, really good in their career. Come on down to Baltimore. That's where we come and pay you. So yeah, I probably lean that way. Absolutely. OTAs are over now, though, and the next big thing is training camp. So if you're going to make a move, you better make it quick.
Yeah, you would think we would have pretty quick resolution to this, but I also don't know. Like maybe maybe teams will literally wait this out. But I just imagine someone's going to jump at this, and at some point he's going to say, "Yeah, I want to commit to something and get paid." But
Yep.
do you see the Ndamukong Suh stuff? Random thought, but he's
No,
basically
what happened
trying
there?
to avoid all of like camp. He's basically saying he won't sign with the team basically until the season's basically going to start. I just said basically like 9 times, but he's
I
basically doing
feel
a health holdout for himself,
I
just self-imposed rules.
I feel like we see this once a year, at least once a year, where these veteran guys just hold out as long as they can so they don't have to do the conditioning test.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly the move he's making. He's just, hey,
more power to him, dude. He's a mercenary anyway. He played
yeah,
for the Bucks
I'll sign when he's
when they
ready.
were good.
Another guy,
But
Chargers, Deandre doesn't work out. I'm okay with a D tackle.
and you have some real nightmare memories of Ndamukong Suh because you're a
Seen
Wildcat
that guy
fan.
live
So
in San Diego, ripping Nick Foles' face off. So I know very well about Ndamukong Suh and what
it
he
all
can do.
comes full circle, baby.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
All right, man. Well, we will be on the lookout for all of this stuff. Hopefully, this comes to a resolution soon. Like Henny said, the final should be locked up by the time we record next. Again, we are recording on Sundays now so that you guys have the rest of the week to listen to us on your drive in from work. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Remember what it's for. Remember the people that have given their lives for your freedom. Not to get too political, but that's what it's all about. If you have ever lost anybody due to any of this stuff, my thoughts are with you. But stay safe tomorrow. Enjoy a couple cocktails if that's your pleasure. Hug your family tight and just enjoy an awesome day off. When you're listening to this podcast, leave us a review. 5 stars are appreciated. Share the podcast with a friend if you like our little banter. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. We're putting out content every single week. And with that, Henny, you have any closing thoughts?
I do not. I mean, enjoy. I guess I do. Enjoy the finale of Succession. No spoilers
Uh,
here.
yeah, no spoilers. All
No
right, we're not
spoilers.
that type of podcast. So, but
Succession.
yes,
Very. If you're an HBO guy on Sunday, big day for you.
hey, it's not HBO anymore; it's Max. So you know,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. It's like so now it's a. Well, it always says it. What do they used to say? It's not HBO, it's TV. I don't know. Whatever. Enjoy.
yeah, it's not cable; it's home box office or something.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm like now I don't even know.
Probably the best thing you've sent me all week though was HBO Max is now Max. Your move, Peacock.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I feel like you sent that to me. I don't know. That's
No,
circling a
you sent
lot.
that to me, buddy.
It's circling a lot, and it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, make sure you check out Succession. And with that, we will bid you adieu. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.